Hello and welcome. Let's try that again. I knew there was one button that wasn't pushed. Thanks to another edition of Jazz Tales, and this week we have one of my wonderful friends. We've known each other since we were 12, 13, which means it's only a couple of years, so there we go. I'd like to introduce you to him this evening. After a 17-year stint as lead and solo trombonist, traveling the world with the Jazz Ambassadors, Jim retired, and as is the case with someone that's as great as he is, he walked into all kinds of different situations, and not just in the jazz world, and that's what I think is so great about, and we'll talk about his training and how he arrived at all of this. But he spent 3 years with Chuck Brown, the father of Go-Go, in DC, appearances with the Baltimore Symphony Pops, the Harrisburg Symphony, the Kennedy Center Orchestra, and he's been on at least 50 projects as a soloist and numerous national television appearances, including on Late Night with Conan O'Brien with the Thievery Corporation. He's a member of the renowned Capitol Bones and a great cover band here in this area called Technicolor Motorhome. He's played with pretty much the who's who of what we do in this business. Some great players, including Dave Liebman, Geoff Keezer, Denis DiBlasio, Ingrid Jensen, Clark Terry, Jim Ridl, Hendrick Muerkins, Bobby Shew, Christian McBride, Ron Blake, Lee Konitz, Eddie Daniels, and the list goes on. And if that wasn't enough, he has been spending years now, I think, you're almost on 20 years at Towson, right?
22.
22 years at Towson University as a trombone instructor there. He runs the jazz band, yes. And also, he's a Antoine Courtois Paris trombones. Please welcome my very good friend, and I think one of the world's foremost trombonists, Jim McFalls. Welcome, Jim.
Fred, thank you so much, man. It's great to be here with you. I just can't believe, like, all that stuff you said. That can't be true. You must be talking about somebody else. No, man, it's a gas to be here. I've been looking forward to this since you asked me to do this, about a month ago. So it's good to see you too, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been way too long. Way too long.
Yep.
We'll get into talking about where you've been and what all you've done, but let's play.
Awesome.
Yeah, Jim. Man, so good to have you
Yeah,
here.
man. Yeah,
so
yeah.
good to play with you. Since you're new to this, you don't know that there's a chat room here on the side. So I say hi to everyone. So
Hey.
we say hi to people. I'm sorry, I got to up my thing here so you could actually see it too. But so Steve and Laurie up in Easton, Pennsylvania,
Nice.
say hi, Fred and Jim. Lou and Janet up in Nutley, New Jersey, say good evening, Fred and Jim. Have a great show. David and Netta up in Montville, New Jersey, say good evening, Fred and Jim. Ed Reffeld, who is in Washington, D.C., looking forward to another great evening of jazz. Thank you, Ed. Warren Harold, good evening, Fred and Jim. There's a story here with, and the next guy, Rob Breen, Hughes and McFalls. So, folks, this goes back to like 1978, 79, when we were all in the First Army Band. So thank you so much, Warren and Jim, or Warren and Rob. So good to see you. Thank you so much. Maybe the next time we can do this with Zoom so we can see each other. Ed, he's jumping right in there. Question for Jim. What is that wrapped around the bell of your trombone?
Ed is asking this question?
Ed is, yes.
Ed, that's a very good question, and I'll tell you, it's a very sophisticated bell cover made out of Hanes pantyhose. I told you it was sophisticated. Well, during this time of COVID, like brass instruments and woodwind instruments, they aerosolize. I think that's the term. And one of the ways we can try to cut down on the aerosol that we spew forward is to use a bell cover. So double set of pantyhose does the trick.
There you go. So a mask for the trombone.
A mask for the trombone.
There you
yes,
go.
Yes.
John Zontek, Pete Magoon, and Len Morris, all Columbia Jazz Band folks, all say hi. And Rob says, "Bring it on."
Bring it on. Okay.
Yeah, Rob, we got to play some music here. So, but great to see you. We'll be having several beers in your honor later on. What are we gonna play next?
Well, let's see. What we just played was Charlie Parker's Confirmation. If you're a jazz aficionado, you're going to know that this is the 100th year anniversary of Charlie Parker's birth, and so we thought we would pay homage to him with our first tune, Confirmation. This next tune was a tune I really didn't know until a couple of years ago. I got a Jerry Bergonzi record,
Wow.
and he's
Yeah.
playing this tune. Like, who cares? This is George Gershwin. Wow, that's a cool tune, man. So I started doing it. I thought maybe tonight we could do a little bit of Who Cares.
Great. Who Cares by George Gershwin. Donna from here in Easton says hello. Lark Fisher.
Lark
Fusa Band.
Fisher.
Lark Fisher, yeah.
Holy
yeah.
cow.
Yeah,
Hey,
I remember the name.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lark, how are
Lark,
you?
good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So here we go with Who Cares by George Gershwin.
Yeah, man. Oh, goodness.
Man, that's a great, great tune. Wow, wow.
Can I interject something right here?
Certainly.
Man, it's been too long since we played together. I mean, goodness gracious. Wow.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah.
It has been.
Beautiful, man.
Yes. It's a Fusa band reunion in here. Yeah, everybody's having. You have your Yingling Frosty? Oh man, Warren, we're coming over to your house right now. Peter from Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Steve, thank you. Appreciate it. What are we doing next? I love you.
I love you too, man.
Cole Porter, 1944 musical Mexican Hayride.
is some musical genius right there.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah. Len says, excellent. My dad says, 40 years later, I see Russ's third finger bell position lives on.
Hey, Dad, how are you, man? That is beautiful. Hey, man, it's a crutch. What can I say?
Next, we got Jimmy Van Heusen and Johnny Burke. 1943 tune, It Could Happen to You.
Allow me to take a sip.
Such a great tune. It Could Happen to You. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. Well, this is my first question to Jim. As those of you who have been with us from the beginning of this Jazz Tales know that I ask this same question of every single one of our guests. And it ties in with the mission of Jazz Alive, which is the continuation and preservation of America's indigenous art form And we're hoping to do this, because it's a new organization, we're hoping to do this through bringing this music to our young people. Because if the young people don't know about the music, they don't learn about the music, I'm afraid that by the time that you and I are no longer here, neither will be the music, unfortunately. So I think it's important that we bring this music to our young folks. And so that's what our mission is here at Jazz Alive. So as part of that mission, I always ask our guests, for the young people that are listening here today, and let me go to this screen, because we have numerous young folks listening that might be considering music as a career, what is that one or several things that happened early on that made you go, I got to play music, and more importantly, it's got to be jazz? What happened?
Woo! My goodness. Well, to you young folks out there, you young musicians, man, welcome, and thank you for coming and hanging out with us. So, all right, I guess it was 1973 or 1974, sometime in that time frame. We were talking about this earlier. I was part of a band that did a gig with Andre Watts, the great piano player Andre Watts, at the Rajah Theater in Reading, Pennsylvania. You know, we're both from Lancaster County, so we were both on that gig.
It was the New Holland Band, actually.
The New Holland Band, yeah. And so I had to get out of school like a Thursday afternoon for a rehearsal. My folks were cool with that, and so I went with my teacher down to the theater. We had a rehearsal, and then we had a concert Friday night and Saturday night. You know, I'm like 14, so this is kind of a big deal. So we do the rehearsal, and I'm like beside myself because the trombone section of the band is killing. The band is killing. So we do the gig, we do the rehearsal, we come back the next night. I drive with my teacher since I'm only 14, can't drive yet, legally, that is. We go play the gig on Friday night, and I'm like seventh heaven. We go back and play the gig on Saturday night, and it was even better than Friday night. And so we finished the gig. We go back out to my teacher's car, and you know, he drove a Pinto. It tells you what time frame we're talking about. And it was a smelly Pinto because he smoked cigars like it was nasty, but it was cool. So I get in the passenger seat. We put our horns in the hatchback. I think it was a hatchback. I get in the passenger seat. He starts driving, and a couple of blocks away from the theater, he stops at this deli, and I'm just sitting there in the passenger seat, being my 14-year-old self, being real cool and trying not to do anything weird. So he says, "Do you want anything?" I'm like, "No, thank you, I'm good." So he gets out of the car, walks into the deli, and about 10 minutes later, he comes out, walks around to the passenger, to the driver's side, opens the door, and tosses on my lap like this bag. It's heavy. It was greasy. It was one of those like brown plastic bag, a brown paper bag. It was greasy, and grease was like, it was greasy and heavy, and I'm like, what? So it was a sub. It was an Italian sub. You know, no big deal. He gets in the car, takes a drag on a cigar, and it's so nasty. He starts opening his sub. He starts to drive, and he has the sub on his lap in front of him. And my teacher was a big boy, and I guess we'll talk about that a little later. So there was not a whole lot of room for him to negotiate the steering wheel on the sub. Anyway, he's eating the sub, and he said, "Aren't you going to eat your sub?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So I open it up, and I'm eating, and he's eating, and we're talking about music, and I'm eating sub, and the grease is running down my shirt and getting on my pants. And I knew at that moment I wanted to play music. Because, man, if this is what musicians do, you go play this great music, earn a little money. I don't know, we walked away with like $125 or something like that. And for a 14-year-old kid, that's like $1 jillion in today's money. I'm like, this is it, man. Everybody gets along, everybody's having fun, playing great music. Man, I want to do this. And, next thing you know, 46 years later, I'm still doing it.
There you go.
It was that was it for me, and I remember that, like we were talking earlier, I remember that like it happened yesterday. Man.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yes, and there are several New Holland Band musicians here. I know, or will be later if they're watching it as a rerun. And I've said numerous times during my happy hour presentation or during the lunchtime thing, especially when several of the members from when I was in and when you were in the band would sign in, and I keep saying, if it wasn't for that organization and people like my father and Russ and Sam and all that, I wouldn't be the musician. You wouldn't be the musician you were today.
I wouldn't be a musician.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have stayed with this. And through that organization, the New Holland Band, I mean, I started playing in their combos with you and your dad. I started playing polka gigs. I'd never, what's that?
Yep.
Because, the school, I went to a high school that didn't have a very good music program, sadly.
Yeah.
So this was an incredible outlet for me that I can thank my teacher for getting me into.
Yeah.
So, it was great, man.
I would imagine we're going to talk about him next, maybe as part of the mentor
Yes.
section. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's play some music. We have up next. Oh, you'll talk about this tune, I guess.
Let me see. We have a tune that is too hard to play. I did a recording session 10 years ago with a dear friend of mine, Denis DiBlasio, a baritone saxophonist. He was with Maynard in the 80s, and now he's the director of jazz studies at Rowan University. And we were doing a live performance that was going to be recorded. And he said, why don't you write a tune? Why don't you write a rhythm changes? I'm like, all right. So I wrote this ridiculous tune, and I sent it to him, and he's like, dude, I have to practice this for this gig. I'm like, well, so do I, man. It's a lot of notes. It's just crazy rhythm changes. So it's called Rapid Transit. Okay, so 1, 2, 1. No. There it is.
Yeah.
Happy transit.
As I used to say, you wrote it. Wow. Yes. There we go. With a name like Rapid Transit, I mean, it just kind of, the whole thing made sense with clusters and all that kind of stuff. Very cool tune, man. Thank you.
I tried to write a tune with a lot of notes.
I think you succeeded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next is a great standard that not a lot of folks play, composed in 1941. George Fragos, Dick Gaspare. It's called I Hear a Rhapsody.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. Johnny Mandel. Emily. Wow. Donna. Wow, love the piece. Jim, great playing from you both. Thank you.
Donna said that?
Yes, Donna. Donna. And
Thanks,
we've
Donna.
got
I'll get that $20 check in the mail to you as soon as we're done.
We're going to learn more about Donna and her students here shortly. Lou Russo, who's the vice president of Jazz Alive,
Nice.
says, hope all the students watching are enjoying this amazing show. Thank you, Lou. Appreciate it. Tasty, such an enjoyable evening. You two must play together more often. I agree, Warren. Thank you. Can you make that happen? We'll come up to you.
Yes.
Steve and Laurie up in Easton, great watching you guys play off of each other. Fantastic. David, thank you so much. Awesome. Vincent Vicarello, thank you so much for your students, and I'm glad that you got a chance to tune in and watch us. Thank you so much. Thank you for providing this opportunity for your students, and very nice, fantastic. Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate it. What a wonderful performance, says Ed. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes, we spent 7 years on the road together in the Jazz Ambassadors, so there's a lot of kind of like history here that kind of just goes without saying, even after all these years of not getting a chance to play together.
And we were roommates.
Yeah, we were roommates.
That's
I told Lou earlier. I said we're not even going to talk about that.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah. So we've got a ballad next, but before we do that, I'd kind of like to I'd like to talk about mentors. I know that you talked about Russ Sumpman, who was a mentor to both of us in more ways than I can say. Take it away, wherever you would like. Because students, I think this is an important thing for you to understand, is that there are folks that come into your life that just impart such stuff that you got to listen. You got to listen.
So this guy Fred's talking about, his name is Russell Sumpman, and in like southeastern Pennsylvania, Russ was a legend. He still is, after being passed like 20 years ago or something like that. He's still a legend. Russ was what's the word I could use to describe Russ? Well, there's some I can't, but cantankerous would be one, wouldn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
And he lived in my hometown of Columbia, Pennsylvania, and he was a working musician, and he was a teacher, and so I started playing trombone in 1968. I was 8 years old. Started out playing cello. That lasted about 3 weeks, and I got tired of dragging the big case back and forth from school to home. So my elementary school band director pulled off this like a case. It looked like a machine gun case, a custom, one of the old ambassadors.
Yeah.
He's like, here's a trombone, here's a mouthpiece, and here's a diagram of the embouchure. I'm like, the what? What's that? So anyway, I started playing trombone then and got hooked up with Russ right away. So he did, fortunately for me and for both of us, I guess, and for his sanity, he didn't have to break me of any bad habits because I had zero habits. So he got me on the right track, man. He hooked me up. This guy Russ was just something else, man. He looked like kind of like a bank vault. He was about 5'10", like all directions.
Right.
And in addition to playing trombone, he played euphonium. I think he played bass trombone.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't even know how my parents got his information, but he lived like 3 blocks from us. So I started taking lessons from him, and his lessons were like Friday afternoons at 5 o'clock for $5 for the hour, and they always went till like 6:30 when he had to like get his stuff on and go to play with Larry Dixon at the host. So, man, not only did Russ teach me how to play the trombone, I mean, he really he really laid the groundwork for me to know what it's like to be a musician and the dedication it takes to be a musician. I mean, and there was, I mean, I can never repay that. It was so fundamental in you know, helping me get to where I am today. And I studied with him, you know, throughout high school, and even after I graduated from high school in 1977 and joined the military. I was in the 1st U.S. Army Band at Fort Meade, and I would still come home on weekends to hang with him to get a lesson, you know, and for about 2 years after
Wow.
that. He was a remarkable human being, and to know him, you might not use that term to describe him, but if you were a student of his, and you were in that orbit where he's the mentor and you're the student, man, it was priceless. And I'm positive, man, and you know, you said something like this yourself. If I wouldn't have hooked up with him, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done, you know, 21 years in the Jazz Ambassadors. I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't be here. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true, man. It's really true. And for those, you know, you young cats that are listening, and you have a teacher that you dig, man, make sure that relationship is something that you really are going to cherish. Like with Russ, I probably spent more time with Russ in my junior and senior year in high school than I did with my parents.
Mm.
And I was with him all the time. You know, we went to all the new home band rehearsals. I was at his house. Even when I didn't have lessons, I would go down to his house, knock on his door, and like his son Pat would answer the door. He's like, "Are you here again?" Like, "Yeah, is your dad home?" And we just hang, you know. And we'd play records. He turned me on my first jazz records, man.
Wow.
Yeah, like a Frank Rossellino record.
Right.
I walked into a lesson one Friday night with him in his house, you know, in his living room, it looked like a bomb exploded in his living room. Just shelves of books and records, and I walk into a lesson Friday night, and I hear this bang, jank-a-dang, 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 bang, dang, and this trombone soloist, like, I was speechless. I'm standing in his living room with my little case, my little satchel of music, with my like jaw hanging down, like what? And I remember this. He walks in from the kitchen, and I'm like, what? I'm speechless. And I said, "That's a trombone?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You can play trombone like that?" He said, "You can't." But then, you know, I thought, I didn't think much about it then, but you know, that was a pivotal moment for me. And he took, it was a record. He took the record off. He, you know, pulled the needle off the record player, pulled the record off the turntable, and there was a crack from the spindle hole to the edge. I mean, so we lifted it up. It kind of went brrr.
Right.
So he put it together, stuck it in the sleeve. No paper, just in the sleeve. And he said, "It's the first tune on side one. The soloist is Frank Rossellino. Why don't you learn his solo?" I'm like, "Okay." So that was the end of the lesson.
Wow.
I took it home. Next week I went back. I played that solo for him. It had a high F in it. I couldn't play high F. I could barely play, you know, you play my nose, you know. But I played it, and I was nervous, man, because it was so different from what we were doing. And he said, great. Sound good. I'm like, yes. So he pulled a Freddie Hubbard record off. Gave me Freddie Hubbard record. Here, check this out. This is a great jazz trumpet player. Check him out. That's how I got immersed in jazz. And this went on for about 2 months, every week. Next week was Sonny Rollins.
Wow.
Next week, Cal Jader.
Wow.
Next week, Woody Herman. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff, man.
Wow.
And it just, oh, man.
Wow.
It was Russ, man.
Yeah,
Russ.
you know, we could go on for a long time about Russ, and I just wanted to say, John Zimmerman signed in. He said, Jim and Fred, Russ Sumpman would have been very proud of both of you. So glad to hear the comments regarding Russ. He was a true musician and a fabulous teacher. Well said, John. Mike Morris says, "Hey man, I really like this. I miss you guys."
Mike!
We're going to play a beautiful ballad. Any words on this one? You told me a little bit of a story about it.
Yeah, I didn't know this tune. This is a Johnny Griffin tune, and of course, Johnny Griffin is an iconic tenor saxophonist, known mostly for playing like at blistering tempos. And I wasn't hip to this tune, and when I got the gig with the Jazz Ambassadors, this tune was in the book. The arrangement that the Jazz Ambassadors used was for 5 trombones, rhythm, and tenor saxophone solo. And I just like, man, this tune is killing. And we played the tune a bunch, and then just about 5 years ago, I contacted John Barry, the guy who did that arrangement. I'm like, look, he's living out in Phoenix, I think. Do you have a score for that you could send me? Because I want to so he did, and I started playing the tune. It's a beautiful tune. It's called "When We Were One." Great. Ah, man.
Let's just go right into September in the Rain.
All right.
Just like we rehearsed.
Yes, sir. September in the Rain by Harry Warren and Al Dubin from the 1937 film Melody for Two. Thank you, everyone, for all of the great comments. We really appreciate it. Yeah, it reminded you a little bit of Infant Eyes. Yes, I would agree. Thank you so much. Rhythms on older tunes. Yeah, thanks, Len. Appreciate it. Yes, it was his idea. It was
I don't
great.
know any new tunes. That's all the stuff I know.
So I just want to say, folks, that I don't know if you can tell by the microphone and what's coming through to you, but I literally am having to almost half the way through this program. I'm talking about half of the program. We've been at it this over an hour now. Most of the time, I have the soft pedal on. This is a trombone, the loudest instrument in the orchestra.
Yes!
And I'm playing soft to continue to balance with him.
It's
Wow.
the pantyhose, man. It's what's
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I knew there was a secret there somewhere. So, folks, we have a couple more tunes for you, but before we do that, I do want to thank some people here. We have a lot of students here tonight, and so I want to talk about that. First of all, we'd like to thank Janet and Lou Russo up in Nutley, New Jersey, who sponsored Dorian Wild, a trumpet player in Nutley, New Jersey, within Nutley High School, which Mr. Vicarella is the band director. Dorian plays in the Jazz Lab, Jazz Ensemble, Wind Ensemble, and Marching Band. We also have Victoria Alameda, a trombone player from Nutley, who plays in the Jazz Ensemble, Wind Ensemble, and Marching Band.
Yes.
Thank you, Jamie and Aldo Russo of Whippany, New Jersey, for sponsoring that student.
nice.
Next, we have both of our longtime friends, Sherry and John Zimmerman up in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, who sponsored Ethan Jamino, a trombone and bass trombone student at Damascus High School in Damascus, Maryland.
Thank you,
He
guys.
plays in
That's
symphonic, marching, and jazz band.
Yeah.
And Julian Hutchison, who's a rising ninth grade trombonist in Easton, Maryland. Donna Ewing, who signed in earlier. Donna, I can't say enough wonderful things about Donna, and she's also on the board of directors for Jazz Alive. Thank you, Donna. Easton Middle School Band for Julian. When he was there, he played in the symphonic, jazz, and marching bands. 2 years, an all-shore band, and solo ensemble participant.
Yeah.
Netta and David Aragona up in Montville, New Jersey, sponsored Nick Blozen, a trombone player from Nutley, New Jersey. Nick, I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong. I probably did. I apologize. He plays in the high school jazz ensemble, wind ensemble, and marching band. And a new person to us who, thanks to Donna and all of her work with the organization, I should go back and say that Janet and Lou were the ones that talked to Mr. Vicarello and got Nutley High School involved. And so we have Donna, who talked to her music supervisor here in Talbot County, Maryland, and Christine and James Redmond, who is the music supervisor. James is the music supervisor for Talbot County. He sponsored 10 students over the next runs here. So thank you so much, Mr. Redmond, for having us, helping us out here. Well, we've got Philip Horner, a rising ninth grade trumpet student from Easton, Maryland, who when he was in Easton Middle School was symphonic jazz band and marching band, 2-year all-shore solo ensemble, and was in the pit for Cinderella at Easton High School. Yeah, Donna is just kicking them, making them play, you know. Caleb Wooters, rising ninth grader, again, when he was in the middle school symphonic jazz marching band, 2 years all-shore solo ensemble, pit for the Cinderella. Johnny Schwaninger, a rising ninth grader, Easton Middle School, again, same ensembles. 2 years at All Shore, first chair last year. Very good, Johnny,
Yes.
way to go.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Solo ensemble and pit. And finally, we have Eduardo Diaz Chavero, 8th grade trombonist at Easton Middle School. Concert and marching bands. Way to go, folks. Thank you so much.
That is killing.
Yeah, it is. It does our hearts good to know that there's so many good teachers out there that and that are making it happen. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Vincent. We really, really appreciate it. Victoria signed in. She says thank you so much for sponsoring us and having us here. Yeah.
You guys that are sponsoring students and that are educators, man, thank you very much.
So
It's a great
before we play a couple more numbers, any parting words for our students that are signed in here?
But yeah, come to Towson University to study. No, I'm just that's a shameless marketing ploy. Yeah, persevere, man. That's the best advice I could give you. Persevere. Stick with it. If music is something you dig and you have support from your family, like we were fortunate enough to have support from our family, man, it is having a life in music is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I would not have changed a single second of it. So stick with it, everybody.
There you have it. And because I can, it's my show. Dad, thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate it.
Me too.
Oh, Asherton is also watching. You know, I thought I had added him to the screen, but it got in here too late. Sorry, Donna. Yes, Asherton, thank you so much. And that also was a sponsorship by Mr. Edmond. So thank you so much. I'm sorry I don't have your credits with me right now, but thank you, Asherton. So here we go with a Thelonious Monk tune. This is called Straight No Chaser. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Fred.
Rimsky-Korsakov and Tommy Dorsey made it famous. Song of India. Folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We've had a wonderful time. Donna, thank you. Yes, we're so happy to have so many students. Let's keep it going. Folks, if you want to know how to make that happen, please contact me through jazz-live.org, and you can find out exactly how to sponsor students. And we want to get as many folks involved as possible. Next week, we have with us vocalist Allison Crockett. Allison has a very unique journey, and I hope that you will join us and hear. I mean, she's like Jim. She's done so many different things, anything from the hip hop thing to neo soul stuff. I mean, she really's been out there doing it. Folks, thank you so much for your kind words. We really appreciate you. Hey, Charlie, thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. Charlie Darty.
Charlie!
Yeah, Charlie's in there, yeah.
Nice.
So thank you so much, folks. Appreciate it. Charlie, thank you for signing in, and thanks for the text. Appreciate it. Folks, thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you next week. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you, man.
Yes, yes. We do it again soon.
Yes.